maybe we can do this in front of the Russian consulate. Would that be a problem to you?
No, absolutely. I protest in front of the Russian consulate.
Oh, okay.
I protest in front of the embassy in Canberra. Not a problem for me. Actually, I have these are the signs that I made. I made 50 of them, and I hand them out to people who don't have anything.
Right.
And this is the Russian flag that I had, and I was very proud of carrying it. I took it to sports events, and then after the war,
the one, yeah,
basically.
Awesome. That's very interesting. So you're still carrying a Russian flag, but you still think that the flag represents Russia, right? Not just the Russian government, not just Putin, not just the regime, but it represents Russia.
Well, until it's formally changed to something else, yes. Until the war is stopped, until the regime crumbles, that's our flag. In the first few days of the war, I was so ashamed of this war, of what was happening, that I thought that I can no longer carry the Russian flag.
Right.
But then, a day or two later, I just realized that it's a very cowardly position. Again, if I'm consistent with my view that all Russians bear some responsibility, that this war is happening, then I need to still carry this flag. I need to still, and I cannot just carry the flag. So I've modified it. I've written my message on the flag.
Right.
But the colors are of the Russian flag. They still represent us. That like for the rest of Australia, that's what it's a symbol that represents Russia and Russians.
Right.
So we can. There's actually a movement to change the flag. Russian flag, white, blue, white, and it's very popular, and I loved it. There are historical reasons behind that particular color scheme, and I love what it represents, and I definitely want Russian flag to be changed after this war is over, after Putin's regime is out. But for now, I think it's cowardly to hide from the flag.
Right.
So.
And that's interesting because I know that because the Chinese flag.
Yeah.
The Chinese flag right now, the flag of Chinese People's Republic of China.
Yeah.
But it basically when you see the flag, you see Chinese Communist Party.
Yeah.
Which is the only ruling party in China.
Yes.
But so a lot of people, dissidents, they will try everything to avoid that flag.
Yeah.
Because you represent that flag, you represent Communist Party.
Communist Party, yeah.
But that flag
it's
doesn't
a bit different.
represent
That's right.
Putin or his party.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, and the thing is, in '91 when the Soviet Union broke up, Russia became an independent state. We had our new flag, and there were proper democratic reforms under this flag.
Can you give us a little bit of education? Like, what do these three colors stand?
I don't remember exactly. I think white stands for purity, blue stands for like the blue sky, and the red I'm not sure. I can't remember exactly.
So it's apolitical. It's apolitical. It's not about like.
No, it's a historic flag. So it
was carried
from the 19th century. Yeah, it wasn't the flag of the Russian Empire. It was, but it has its roots in Tsarist Russia.
Okay.
Yes.
Like the Ukraine flag, it's like basically sunflowers under the sky, right?
Yeah.
So this is more about Russia.
Yes.
Not about ideology.
Yeah, there is still some ideology, and essentially it is an imperial flag.
Right.
So there are people who now defend. I have a friend who is a really famous lawyer in Russia, and he defends this flag. He wants to continue using it because for him it represents the kind of glorious history of Russia, of the 18th and 19th century, and he feels strongly about this flag. He's proud of this flag. For me, I think a big problem with Russia is it's too many people have this imperial thinking still. Even liberally minded people, they still think of Russia as a big empire.
Right.
And the problem is, and that's where Putin's all about building a Russian empire.
Yes.
And we have to recognize people of Russians of pro-democracy views that we need to get rid of this imperial thinking for Russia to be a proper country, for Russia to be a peaceful country. Because if it's not, if we still cling to those imperial roots of Russia, then if it's not Putin, another ruler will do the same thing, and it will not be Ukraine, it will be, I don't know, Kazakhstan or Latvia or Lithuania, and it's really problematic. I think I believe that Russia should be a European country based on that adheres to humanistic ideals of universal human rights and political freedoms and freedom of conscience, and if you truly believe in those ideals, then you understand that these ideals are not compatible with imperial thinking. This historical empire that Russia built, we need to consign it to the past. Yes, that's what Russia was before. We recognize our history, but what do we want for the future? And the only way, like Russia already is so huge, we don't really use the natural resources of our country very well. We don't take care of the Russian people very well, and Russia definitely doesn't need any more land. It just needs to focus inwardly, focus on building a more equitable society, more just and fair society, and take care of our environment, take care of our nature, which is beautiful, and it can give so much. So yeah, that's my view.
Okay. I would definitely love to keep exploring that, like where this imperialism come from. Maybe there's a little bit ethno-nationalism in this flag.
Yes. There is ethno-nationalism in this flag, absolutely.
Right. And that's the cause of everything, basically.
Essentially,
What's going on in the last 20 years?
Well, much longer.
Much longer
for hundreds of years.
I think Putin's role model is Stolypin, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's a survey in Russia, like the 100 most famous or most popular people in Russia. The first one is Stalin. The second one is Stolypin. They're all tough guys, like.
Well, Stolypin is a bit different, but yes, there's this myth that Russians need a strong man to be in charge of them. The reality, it's a myth. It's a historical creation. It's a particular ideology. If you study Russian history, there were different Russias. Kiev was the first capital of Russia. It's called the mother of all Russian cities, Kiev. Then there was the Novgorod and Pskov democratic republics. In medieval times, they had a functioning democracy. They had people's power essentially, and they had almost universal literacy there. They were very progressive. But then there was the Moscow version of Russia, and that version was very authoritarian. It was about strong central power and strong control and governing through force and violence, and unfortunately that strand of Russian culture in politics, it won.
Became the dominant.
It became the dominant one, and then since Ivan the Terrible, we've been under the same model of governance. And people mistake this that, okay, this somehow essential for Russia and Russians. It's not. I don't believe it is. There's a history of ordinary Russians are actually quite independent in their daily life. They are suspicious of authority. The current regime doesn't have that much support. The reason why Putin has so much support, and still he has support, unfortunately.
70%.
No, a lot lower. A lot lower. Yeah.
I mean about the war, about this war, the Russians' attitudes towards war. I thought a poll it says that 70% think they agree with that.
Yeah, I don't trust these numbers. Right now, you cannot do proper polling in Russia right now.
Right.
So,
like in China.
so these are made up numbers to some extent. But I think what Russians saw in Putin is that he's a self-made man. That's what they saw in him. That he stands up to power. He stands up to the West. He stands up to America, and that's what they appreciate. And I know, like, when we stand on the bridge in Melbourne, people from Egypt and India and China come and say, "Oh, why are you doing this? You shouldn't be doing this. You should support Putin. NATO is the problem. The West is the problem. They're threatening Russia."
Did that surprise you? A lot of Chinese people approach and say, "You are traitors to the Russian people."
Yes, yeah. There are some. It's not a lot, but regularly people come, and that's what. The West has been dominating global politics and media for a long time, and it's very Western-centric. The narrative is very Western-centric. The reality is, the majority of people live in other countries. They live in Africa, they live in China, in India, in all these countries, and their view of history and global politics, geopolitics, is very different.
Yes.
And they see the West as a colonial power. That has really exploited the rest of the world, right? China has suffered from British colonialism. Africa has suffered from European colonialism, and I think it's important to actually listen to those people as well. And I get into arguments with them. I get very annoyed, and I get very forceful in my arguing, because I don't believe that they should be supporting the war just because they're against NATO and because they suffered too much from America. But at the same time, I try to understand them. I try to understand where they're coming from. And the problem is, too many countries, too many people have this hurt dignity because of colonial oppression. And the West has to come to terms with it. The West is trying to ignore it. The West is trying to just say, well, now we're all good and everything is fine. But that's not how the rest of the world feels. Anyway, it's complicated.
That's a very interesting perspective. But don't you think that's also part of the reason why Russia is right now doing it to Ukraine? Because a lot of people are blaming the West for the,
absolutely.
They pushed Russia too much, so that Russia will have to fight back. What do we think about that narrative?
I believe it's a false narrative. I believe it's the reality is, if you look objectively at the facts, NATO is a defensive alliance. NATO is not actively recruiting any of the countries. It's those individual countries that knock on NATO's door and want to be part of that alliance because they're afraid of threats. They're afraid of countries like Russia, unfortunately. They see that they need defense. And it's not like NATO is actively recruiting or America is recruiting allies. Yes, they like stability, they like to conduct trade, they like to sell their arms. Yes, America has a massive military-industrial complex, and they certainly benefit from selling arms to all the NATO members, and that's part of NATO's kind of rules. Like, if you join the alliance, you have to use American weapons, right?
Like Australian, we are buying American submarines. Like
again, it's same thing, and I think that that's a problem. But just going back to this narrative, the reality is, it's those individual countries. Ukraine declared that it wanted to join NATO in 2004, a long time ago.
Right.
the Baltic states, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, they joined NATO a long time ago. There are some Nordic countries like Sweden and Finland.
Yeah, they're neutral.
They've been neutral,
Yeah.
but now recently they're saying that they declared their intention to join NATO because now they're scared of Russia. So I know this is the narrative that Putin is trying to push. Russia has been threatened by the West, and that's why Russia had to attack first.
Yes.
The reality, it's not Russia that was threatened. It's Putin's regime that was threatened, because instead of building a strong Russia, it has become all about Putin and his personal power, right? And it's so anti-democratic, it's so anti-Western that the further he was on that path, it just became impossible for the West to deal with him normally, right? So the West had to react to all those abuses of power, to all those rigged elections, and Putin didn't like it. He has been losing support since 2018. He has been losing support internally. His approval ratings have been going down, even during coronavirus epidemic. His approvals have been going down, and he decided to manufacture an external crisis to consolidate the Russian society around himself. It's a centuries-old tactic. Americans do the same thing. If a president feels that they are in a tough domestic situation, they start an external conflict that they can win, and
everybody does that.
Everybody does that.
Yeah.
Everybody does that, and that's what Putin did. So I don't buy this narrative that it's NATO's responsibility. This war is NATO's responsibility. It is Putin's responsibility, 100%.
I know. Like people like you are arguing that it's not like a NATO is expansion eastwards. It's about those countries that are fleeing from Russia westwards.
So the people need to understand that really the best way for Russia to prevent NATO from getting closer is by treating its neighbors better, right?
Right.
It's because of that imperial thinking that Putin and Russia has been very behaving really badly towards its neighbors, right? It's dominating, wants to dominate everybody around it, and those countries, they don't like it. They want their sovereignty, and that's why they are going to NATO.
Yeah, I have been comparing Russia to like a bear. No offense to Russian people, like compare Russia to a bear, Russian regime to a bear. Like this bear is unreasonable, right? So if you want to get along or live with this bear, instead of just put barricades in front of the bear's cave, maybe you should leave some space. Like people are saying that Ukraine better be neutral, like as Finland and Sweden. Leaving him some space and trying to tame the bear little by little. Is that?
I don't agree with that.